is Mike Millington. I'm Chief Executive of the East Asian-Australasian Flyway Partnership, which brings together national government agencies, international NGOs and intergovernmental organizations to protect migratory waterbirds and their habitats throughout the Flyway. So about 50 million waterbirds every year make the journey up and down our Flyway, all the way, some of them to Arctic Alaska and Arctic Russia, down through East Asia and Southeast Asia to Australia and New Zealand. And they make this journey twice a year, once up to the breeding grounds and once down to the non-breeding grounds. And I'm here now to introduce World Migratory Bird Day, which is an annual celebration of this migration throughout the world of migratory birds, not just waterbirds, all migratory birds, as they make these amazing journeys across the globe. There are many challenges these birds face in our Flyway because, particularly in Eastern Asia, Southeastern Asia, there is huge pressure on the remaining habitats for migratory waterbirds. Something like a third of the world's population is estimated to live within 100 kilometers of the coastline. And so a lot of the major cities are on coasts and a lot of the development pressures are on coasts. So what we're finding is that for wetlands and coastal habitats, there is enormous pressure on the habitats, and we're seeing that fewer and fewer places remain for migratory waterbirds to be able to stop off on their migration, to feed, to rest, and find shelter. So what we see is that there are larger and larger concentrations of birds at fewer and fewer sites, which is great for bird watchers who want to see lots of birds at one time, but I think it indicates a wider problem that the birds actually don't have other places to go anymore. So it means that as we lose these sites and as we lose these habitats, the birds essentially disappear. So the population then subsequently decreases to the extent they're dependent upon these habitats. And it's not just the amount of habitat or the number of sites, it's also where the sites are located strategically along the migration paths, so that the birds have evolved over many years to adapt their migration to the existence of stopping places, in addition to non-breeding places and of course where they nest in the summer. And so as they disappear, these sites disappearing very quickly, it's very, very hard for the birds to adapt in an evolutionary sense to change their migration patterns. And so it's a real issue that now we have relatively few sites left and that these sites are under increasing pressure. This year's World Migratory Bird Day, the global theme is energy and making energy bird friendly. As we see many of these sites subject to development pressures for industrial development and also for energy infrastructure, we have to really try to see how we can better balance the development needs with the needs for nature conservation. And so when we talk about energy, for instance, we all recognize that the world needs to transition from fossil fuel-based production system to a low-carbon economy. So we need to expand and accelerate the use of renewable energy. And many countries in our Flyway are doing this, and this is a good thing. But where there is potential conflict between habitats that migratory birds depend upon and the same areas that are being targeted for energy production, even renewable energy, we have to be very clever about how we are planning this so that we can get benefits both for conservation as well as for energy. And so we'll see, for instance, that along the coasts of East Asia, there are many large wind farms being developed. Some of these are on coastal mudflats that are very critical for certain shorebird species and other waterbird species during their migration. And so we just have to work with planners. We have to develop new partnerships with the public sector, with private sector, to try to identify win-win situations for both renewable energy and for migratory water bird conservation. And there are many very simple and very easy ways to do this to get the best solutions. For instance, you could look at moving wind farms, wind turbines, maybe further out to sea so that they're not on intertidal habitat. You can look at different kinds of tidal power that really doesn't inundate critical habitat for migratory birds. In our Flyway, we do have very good success stories, and we do have actions that are upcoming to address many of the issues that are now being increasingly understood and realized by countries of our Flyway. For example, in Korea, we have black-faced spoonbills coming back and nesting in off the coast of Korea, and this species spends the non-breeding season in Hong Kong, Taiwan, and some areas of Southeast Asia. And every year we do a census of this species in its non-breeding grounds. And for the first time ever, the population this year exceeded 3,000 birds, and that's up from 600 about 2 decades ago. So it really is a very good success story, and there are many examples like this that we also need to celebrate, and at the same time that we're really aware of some of the critical challenges for other groups of birds. One promising initiative that we're working with our partner CAF is the Arctic Migratory Bird Initiative, where the Arctic Council countries are working with Arctic Council observer countries along the Flyway to try to protect habitat for migratory birds that actually breed in the Arctic. And the plan has been recently approved by the Arctic Council, and so we're hoping to undertake some actions under that plan. So I think that we're seeing much greater cooperation, we're seeing much greater awareness of the issues, and we're seeing some positive trends for some species. But of course we have to be vigilant, we have to be careful. As sites are threatened, we need to work with local stakeholders and national governments to make sure that optimal conservation scenarios are implemented for these areas. So it's a constant challenge for us, but I think at the same time we are always so inspired by the journey of these migratory birds. It keeps us going each year, and World Migratory Bird Day is a very important event for us in trying to catalyze local people, to try to catalyze governments, and essentially all stakeholders to appreciate, to understand, and to better conserve migratory water birds and the places that they depend on during their journeys. Thank you.